Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Transatlantic Call-In Show. This is the place where you get to call in and talk to two live trans people. Live, I already said live. We're live. I don't know if you know we're live.
Are we live?
We're going to
Whoa.
take your calls about
Hey, we're
anything and
live.
everything trans related. So, if you maybe have a trans relative and you have an awkward question you don't want to pose to them, or maybe if you think we're like damaging the entire transgender movement or something, you can call us and tell us how you're feeling. We would love to talk to you about it and see what you have to say. I am your host today, the Arden Hart, and with me is the marvelous, the brilliant
Student Dr. Ben. Hi, everybody.
ooh, Foghorns. Cool. How you doing, Ben?
Doing all right. I'm just a few weeks away from finding out where I'm going to be doing residency and what specialty I'm going to be going into. And it's it's the longest wait of my life. And
Oh,
I
for sure.
graduate medical school and well, I don't officially graduate, but I finish my coursework for medical school in 169 days, not keeping a countdown, but 169 days. So almost done. We're getting very close.
Yeah, I'm sure it feels like you can see the finish line at this point. That's got to feel so good. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like senioritis, It's like you can see the finish line, but every day seems to slow down to a crawl pace after that.
Oh, definitely.
Cool. Well, I am so excited to have us both on together. We've got with Shirley, we're going to be doing some Team Arden and Team Ben fights later in this show. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but I'd love to. We've got a lot to say about the new poll, so we're going to quickly do some addressing of the last week's poll, so we could bring that up. I would wanted to spend more time in this, but all right, we're going to touch on it quickly. All right, so can you be AFAB trans femme? If you don't know what that means, that's assigned female at birth, trans femme person. So 19% said, of course, call yourself whatever. 7% said, no, that's a contradiction. 2% said, no, that's a transphobic dog whistle. 7% said, depends on what you mean, comment. And 64% said, what do those words even mean? Which, to be fair, I appreciate that most people were like, those words together are confusing, because I think that's probably a fair assessment. I know y'all kind of touched on it last week. I feel strongly about this. I've interacted with a few people on Twitter who have claimed the AFAB trans femme label, and in every instance, they were a gender critical person who was attempting to mock the notion of self ID. They're trying to undermine it and say, like, oh, well, I can be an AFAB trans femme then. Like intentionally trying to use a contradiction in terms to undermine the concept of self ID. And I find it kind of appalling that only 2% said it's a transphobic dog whistle, when I feel like that is my biggest objection to this term. I'm sure there are people who authentically and in good faith use this label to describe their experience. I saw some people who didn't themselves have this identity, but speculating, maybe someone who's intersex could, you could navigate how, like, maybe they were assigned female at birth, maybe their body like masculinized at some point due to their intersex condition, and then they transitioned or something like that. That could make sense. But my issue is with the label. The label is almost exclusively I've seen used as a dog whistle. Not that any identity who might use that label is inherently wrong, but that the label itself is problematic. But I don't know how you feel, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my thoughts from last week. It's like being careful once again with number one, falling into these weird word games that GCs often like to play on Twitter, because we do see them playing that game a lot. And then kind of knowing that different labels have certain meanings when you use them. Like, sure, there's nothing like inherently wrong with using a label differently than is the common usage. But I think we do need to be careful when referring to yourself as a certain trans label. And if you're not undergoing a transition, or if you're not experiencing similar discrimination as you would in the trans community, it can be kind of seeming to be almost appropriation in a certain way. Like, whereas I do kind of see that intersex argument of if they had to undergo a transition and if they did experience a lot of the same things, like Possibly, but yeah, I haven't seen that actually presented. More, I've seen the GCs, like you have said.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to spend more time on this because I know it's a little salacious. I think this is the first time I've ever seen a significant divergent response from the audience to what the hosts felt, but that it's possible that we're just totally off the mark on this. I'm not trying to say that you guys are all inherently wrong, but as much as I'd like to talk about this more, we have a much more important and pressing matter coming up in the next poll. So we're going to move on to that. So, Ben, do you want to read this one out?
Yeah, the Florida Medical Board has decided that the testimony of a few detransitioners and a religious conversion therapy advocate are sufficient to overturn the medical guidelines accepted by every reputable medical organization in the U.S. Is this decision rooted in good medicine? And your choices are no, they clearly just hate trans people. Yes, they're saving our children, or I don't know enough about transition care. And this one definitely grinds my gears a lot because this is the field that I'm going into. This is like my life's work. And we do have multiple medical boards in the US that have explicitly expressed support of gender affirming care. We have the AAFP, we've got the American Academy of Pediatrics, not to be confused with the American College of Pediatrics because they're a hate group. The American Academy of Pediatrics. We have the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. We have the American Psychiatric Association. We have all of these organizations that have specifically said, and I can read some of the statements. So this is from the AFP. Says that they recognize the diversity in gender identity and expression is a normal part of the human existence and does not represent pathology. The AFP supports gender-affirming care as an evidence-informed intervention that can promote health equity for gender-diverse individuals, although wider sociopolitical efforts are necessary to further mitigate these barriers and advance equity. We have all of these boards that have been on the same page about this. And something that's really important here is that we're seeing medical providers being criminalized for caring for people. Like the big issue isn't just that they have decided to not support it, but they're deciding to criminalize it. And so I personally know doctors who are at risk for going to jail for using evidence-based practice. And this is really, really scary.
Yeah. So just quickly, if the audience doesn't know, Florida's medical board had a hearing over this past week to determine whether or not they were going to permit medical transition and social transition for trans youth. And they decided that all of that care should be banned uniformly. And so we're just going to talk a little bit. I've got a few things right now. I don't want to rant too long because I know Ben has a lot of feelings about this too, as he just shared. But we need to talk about this because this is really important. So one of the main experts that they had testifying is Dr. Michael Laidlaw, who works with the Alliance Defending Freedom. If you recognize that name, that's because they're responsible for drafting a lot of the anti-abortion and anti-trans laws, or I should say the pro-forced birth and anti-trans laws across the U.S. in the past couple years. He recently spoke at a convention about curing homosexuality through faith-based counseling. This is one of the experts that the Florida Medical Board had testifying for this, that they took as their expert for their position. They also had a dentist talking about medical transition care for minors. One of their most significant claims was that up to 50 to 90% of trans-identifying kids desist. We call this the desistance myth. If you don't know, this is well known in the trans community. It comes from a study that was in Canada, and I think they took some participants from some older Netherlands studies from the 70s and 80s that claimed that up to 90% of trans kids desist. The reason they were able to produce this kind of number is because they defined a trans kid in this study as any kid who is referred to this gender clinic for gender aberrant behavior. So this means that a boy who's a cis boy, who knows he's a cis boy, who might have said one day, I want to wear a dress, could have been referred to this clinic. And that is one of the pool of kids that they're taking from to say that, this kid didn't persist with a trans identity. The kid never had a trans identity to begin with. The sample population, as defined operationally, is useless, rendering this entire data set completely useless. And moreover, a study came out of the Netherlands literally last month, October, I think 22nd, that found that 98% of their participants, that's 704 of 720 participants, continued on treatment into adulthood. There are also several other studies that have very similar numbers, which strengthens the accuracy of modern diagnostic criteria and the efficacy of transition care. So this is the whole point of what we're saying here. Is this good medicine? Because clearly, in my opinion, the Florida Medical Board has decided to completely disregard the well-being of trans kids in favor of their comfort for their expectations of what bodies should look like. This is even made further in that they made an exception in the ruling about genital surgery on children for intersex kids, intersex infants, which... Wow. I mean, I think there is a pretty hot debate about circumcision for cis male boys, whether that should be even allowed. Intersex surgery, genital surgery, is even more controversial. But they would rather see bodies conform to their expectations than see people being well and thriving in their society.
Yeah.
My last
this is
little... Or sorry, no, go ahead.
No, I'll touch on mine in a second because I'll go on my rant.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, to make no mistake, this will ruin the lives of kids in Florida. As we speak right now, there are children who are watching their lives spiral out of their control because of the decisions of misinformed and ideologically motivated legislators and medical board, the people who are on the medical board in Florida. Like, many children are going to spiral towards suicide and self-harm because of this decision. As a former detransitioner myself, I've said on the show many times, the real irreversible damage that was done to me was not being rushed through the medical community. I was met with hurdles at every single point as a minor. The real irreversible damage that was done to me were community leaders, teachers, educators, doctors, who disregarded the evidence of that was actually existed for trans people in favor of what they wanted their expectations for me to be like. They would have rather made me feel like a freak and like an outsider and to hate myself than to follow the evidence that who I was perfectly acceptable. That was the irreversible damage that was done to me. Thankfully, I found people who made me feel loved and supported, but not every trans kid makes it that far. And that's why this is so serious.
And I'm hoping that we see these medical organizations like the AFP, etc., come forward and make official statements about this. I haven't seen any yet, to my knowledge, but hopefully they're in the works. But like, if you take this similar rhetoric that they have of, well, a few people detransitioned, therefore this is not medically necessary or not medically smart. But imagine if we did that with any other medical procedure. Let's say, like, you have things like even tonsillectomies are very regretted procedures sometimes. Like, if you imagine, like, oh, I had a person who was not happy with their tonsillectomy. They had pain and maybe some voice changes afterwards. And you have very few examples of that, right? Like, a tonsillectomy is a very routine procedure. We've deemed it to be safe. There's evidence behind it. And if you have the minority of those people that said, I was not satisfied, and they come forward and say, I wasn't satisfied, so you should make this illegal across the board for everybody. That's not good medicine, right? Like, yeah, you have risk with every medical procedure. You have people that are not going to benefit sometimes. But you can't base the entire medical standards of care on just those people. What you can do is you can look at those examples and say, okay, how do we better screen for who is a good candidate for this procedure? How do we make this a safer procedure? But you don't like outright ban it for people. And so if you apply that logic to any other medical procedure, any other therapy, it would sound absolutely ridiculous, because it is. And something to take into account here is there's a lot of straw man arguments coming out about what transgender medicine and gender affirming care is. And I think people are concerned about those irreversible surgeries at young ages. Like, giving what, like a 3-year-old HRT or something that these people claim actually happened, which they don't.
Right.
The American Academy of Pediatrics specifically states that they support developmentally appropriate transition. And I think like that's the key phrase here is developmentally appropriate. So what is developmentally appropriate for a toddler is not necessarily the same as a 17-year-old or a 30-year-old, right? Like letting your 3-year-old grow their hair out and be called a girl and do certain activities and use a different name is different. Like that might be considered developmentally appropriate for them, but we're not doing surgeries on those 3-year-olds. We're not giving HRT to a 3-year-old. But then when they reach older adolescence, when they can start making those decisions, like that's again a different issue. So I think the straw manning that we're getting is horrible, and I think that's maybe a huge contributor to why people are believing that this is not medically necessary when the evidence says otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, I could, talk on this for ages, but I think we've said our piece. We've got 4 callers on the line, and they all look like they're actually going to be really interesting and compelling calls. So we should probably move on to that, but definitely go check out the poll, vote, get educated on what's going on. I saw someone in the chat saying I'm misrepresenting their position. You need to call in. You're not going to sit in the chat and say some shit like that unless you're going to call in. Either put up or shut up. So thanks. All right. What do we say we take caller number 2 first? I think that could be kick it off with a little spice while we're revved up from that poll.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's bring in Skylar from
either
Florida.
put up. Ooh. Oh no.
All right.
Oh, sorry,
Okay.
it's on my headphones.
Thanks for muting.
All right. Hi, guys.
What's going on?
Hi. I got a lot in store for you guys. Well, first of all, I want to say, very amazing speech, Arden. As a Floridian here, I'm in the belly of the beast, so I get to know I'm basically on the inside. But but that's just, I am not okay with what's going on there. Well,
Skylar, really quick before you go on, thanks for that. Just really quick before you go on, it sounds kind of muffled, your call. I don't know if you're on like speakerphone or something, or maybe your mic is really close. If you could try and adjust.
Here, let me try something. Oh boy.
Oh, something's happening. We're changing gears.
Yep, here, do I sound better?
Oh my God, a million times better. Great.
Way
Thank
better.
you so much.
Oh,
all right, what's your call
up at a JBL Charge 3 is actually a really good speaker, but it is about to die, so hold on. Uh-oh. I was expecting that my headphones to work a little bit better, but, hopefully it won't die on me.
No worries. All right, what's your topic?
All right, so, I said specifically to the call screener, very specifically, that you, Arden, and student Dr. Ben are actively damaging the trans right movement. And one, that served to get you to answer the call, but 2, it's also true. So I want to get to the point of that. So I'm going to try something a little bit different today. I have a question that I would like to ask, and I want to see how both you and Ben feel about and just let me know what your thoughts are. All right, so Arden, you're first.
Go for it.
There's nothing that you can do to change my opinion about you. How does that make you feel?
I don't care.
Don't care. Interesting. Ben, how do you feel?
Here's my answer for you. Is that if you are a person where nothing can change your mind, that sounds like a you problem and not a me problem. That sounds like you are somebody that is not willing to change their mind due to evidence presented. So that's not a me problem.
Excellent. You're feeling. That's what I want, because that is kind of where I'm trying to get at today. that the way I worded that was very specific. I know you. I've watched your shows. I know that specifically gets to you. And so I know that this is how I plan to actually reach out to you guys. Because, well, I mean, I really just wanted to address what happened last week. Because from my perspective, it did not go well. I don't know how that you guys started, but I know Ben was there, Malcolm was there, and it seemed to go pretty well at the start. Well, okay, here we go. All right. Well, I plan on doing that in a little bit. Hopefully it is a little bit long, but unfortunately I'm gonna make do with what I can. So I called him last week, right? And like I said, not so great. Unfortunately, I had some poor choices of words that, well, I got you guys pissed off. That's what I'm trying to get at. And, well, I wasn't trying to piss you off then. Now, I specifically tried to piss you off now because I know that you guys are pissed off, and I know I'm prepared for it this time. Unfortunately, I wasn't prepared. I didn't have,
Why are you here trying to piss us off?
Yeah, why do you think that pissed me off? If you come in and said there's nothing I can do to change your mind, do you think that pisses me off? That's just
well,
I do this all the time, buddy. I deal with people like this all the time, and I still am changing minds regularly. So that to me is okay. There's tons of people whose mind I can't change because I have a style, and my style doesn't work for everyone. That's okay. I'm not interested in changing everyone's mind. I'm just interested in changing people's minds who I can change. So if I can't change your mind, why should I care?
Here's the idea. Do you know what I'm thinking?
Obviously not. I'm not a psychic. Can you get to the point, though? I would like to see what you're trying to get at.
Here's the point. Well, because my opinion on you and Ben here is actually a bit better than you would expect. So here, let me go through my notes.
I have a hard time believing that.
What does that matter, though?
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Then why did you call in if it doesn't matter? What's your point?
It does matter.
Okay, so tell us how. Like, instead of leading up to what you're about to say, how about you just, say what your claim is so that we can move a little quicker?
Well, I'm claiming that you guys assumed wrong of me last week, and you're assuming wrong of me now. That's what I'm trying to get at. Because
I did not assume wrong of you. I did not assume wrong of you. You came in and said, Skylar, stop. You came in and said, there's nothing you can do to change my mind. And I said, okay, then I don't care. This conversation is then absolutely a waste of our entire audience's time. It's a waste of my time, and it's a waste of your time.
I'm not wasting your time. I believe that you are the future of the right movement. Arden, listen to me. I think that you guys are doing great work. I think that you
lied to the call
are the future. I didn't lie. I do think you guys are actively damaging. I want to get there.
But Skylar.
The point is,
get to the point.
Skylar. It's Skylar. Are you trans?
No, I'm not.
Are you trans? Okay, so you're going to come in here and tell two people of a minority community what we're allowed to do for our activism and what our activism should look like. That sounds a little bit pretentious and a little bit I don't know. It seems like it's not really your place to tell us that.
Skylar, here's the deal. I'm going to give you an option here. Okay, Skylar? Skylar, I'm going to give you an option here. The next words out of your mouth. The next words out of your mouth better be backing up your claim that we're damaging the trans rights movement. No lead up. I want you to back up your claim or you're gone. Simple as that.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you that you're damaging it because you turned me away. You guys assumed that I was trying to fight you last week. I wasn't trying to fight. I was trying to learn. I came in.
I don't care. No, hold on. I don't care what my.
I just dropped him because that is the most bullshit thing I've heard in my whole life. If the fact that your feelings were hurt is us damaging the trans movement, you absolutely just wasted both of our time and the entire audience's time. I am not interested in whatever bullshit you were just trying to pull there.
And with what happened last week, I don't care what your intentions were. I don't care what the assumptions were. I care about what you said because your words matter. Your words have consequences. And I, last week, addressed the words that you said, and you said some words that needed some correction. So we addressed it. So don't get mad. And it's okay if you didn't mean to say things that way, but then just come out and say, I didn't mean to say that. I'm sorry for saying it that way. That would be a whole different conversation than coming in and telling us we're damaging the trans community.
Yeah, this comes from, I hear this all the time, you know, that if you're not being nice to someone and fostering conversation, that you're not being productive, and I call bullshit on that. Not everyone needs a hand-holding conversation to be moved out of trans rights, and as a trans person who deals with transphobia on the regular, I owe you absolutely nothing for coming up with a bullshit statement like that. So, bye-bye. We're going to move on to the next callers because we have 3 callers who actually look like they could be also spicy and interesting. Let's I want to get to caller 1 because I see they've been on the line the longest, but caller 3, it looks spicy, and we always prioritize the spicy calls. So we're going to bring in Matt from Pennsylvania. Matt from Pennsylvania, you are live on Transatlantic. What's going on?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What's up?
Okay, cool. So I just had some questions about, you know, the validity of gender identity, its definitions and such. So first, let's just, you know, define. I have the definitions. I got them from the World Health Organization, and let's see if you guys are fine with these definitions for the discussion. So gender refers to the characteristics of women, men, girls, and boys that are socially constructed. They include norms, behaviors, and roles associated with being woman, man, girl, or boy.
Sure. For gender, separate from gender identity,
yes, for gender.
That is sufficient.
No, that was gender.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
no,
and
I think you're confused.
What?
Can I just make a clarification? Gender is talking about the social roles of society. Gender identity is talking about something slightly different. So if you're conflating those two, it might get a little confusing.
No, I was going to define both of them since they're related, so that, you know. And then it says that gender identity refers to a person's deeply felt internal and individual experience of gender. So
sure, that's probably sufficient. I feel like I tend to approach it ever so slightly differently, but for the sake of this conversation, that's fine. What's okay, so what from there?
So that to me basically is just people's feelings about other people's feelings that are arbitrary.
Wait. But the definition says one's innermost concept of self. How is that feelings about other people's feelings?
Because you have deeply felt internal feelings about norms, behaviors, and roles. Those are all made up.
I mean, made up is a bit of a stretch, but still, that's not about. This is talking about internal feelings. How is that relating to other people's feelings? You didn't really clarify that.
Because norms, behaviors, and roles, like this definition says, is a social construct. It was made up by humans. If we were just like the cavemen or whatever that didn't know anything, that would be irrelevant.
See, but you just did what I said at the beginning I didn't want you to do. You just said the roles is what gender identity is, and I said, but that's distinct from gender is the roles. Gender identity is not the roles. That's the internal concept.
Gender identity comes from gender. It's in the word. I mean, the phrase.
Gender identity is your internal concept of self. I like to call it a durable psychological state. And that we inform how to express that based on gender roles that exist in society, but it is distinct from those gender roles in society.
Okay, so basically, how do I put this? I just want to say
you're struggling because you're conflating definitions. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't want you to do.
No, I just really don't want to offend you.
But I guess trust me, there's not a single word you could say that would offend me.
Okay,
go for it. Do your worst.
All right, then. Woman, man, girl, and boy, like, are inseparable from sex. So all this norms and behaviors is all like it has nothing to do with actual reality. You can't
Okay, so
just
hold on.
decide.
So here's something. So Matt, so
Yeah.
you jump onto this call and you right off the bat go with the definition of gender, and then you go with the definition of gender identity, and then you're trying to say that the definition of gender is inseparable from sex. So you're not even agreeing with your own definition that you read off at the beginning. So do you agree with that definition of gender, or do you not?
Did you say how so?
Gender
You
and sex
came
are the
in
same
using
thing.
the WHO definition,
Gender
and
and
then you
sex
said
are the
gender
same
is
thing.
sex.
Gender
Okay,
and sex
well,
are the same thing.
how do you cope with the fact that all those medical organizations that Ben listed, who inform most of the medical guidelines that we adhere to in the U.S., disagree with you? What information do you have that they don't have?
How do you feel that just 10 years ago they thought that it was a mental disorder?
It was not 10
wrong.
years ago. Yeah. It was
they
longer than
were
10 years
wrong.
ago that they thought that. But
And
Well,
they
could be wrong
updated.
now.
They could be. We're
They
more
could be
right now
wrong
than we
now.
were
Are
yesterday.
they your gods?
Okay,
Are they
irrelevant comment aside. Irrelevant comment about God aside, that has literally nothing to
Matt.
do with what you're saying. Science
Yeah.
is always improved with more, better science. The fact that new, better science came along and disagreed with the old science doesn't mean that now you can refer to the old science and be like, haha, the old science said this. We know. We acknowledged it and said, oops, that was wrong and stupid. This is the right definition.
Hey Matt, how do we determine truth?
Norms and behaviors are scientific.
How do we determine who has the right answer here, Matt?
I don't know. Everyone just believes what they want anyway.
Okay, so you're claiming that we're wrong.
you
You're
actually
claiming
look up-
you want.
So Matt, so you're claiming that we are wrong about how we view gender and sex. So if I said that gender and sex are not the same thing, and you say that I'm wrong, by what metric am I wrong? How did you determine that I'm wrong?
That you think gender and sex are separate?
Yeah, how am I wrong? What did you use
Because
as a
the
metric,
Oxford
or what
definition-
method? What was that?
The definition of gender on Google?
Yeah, so the definition of gender also disagrees with you. So you came in with that definition,
Oxford.
and you are not even going with that definition at all.
No, that's your definition.
Okay,
the
what is your
gender
definition? What is
ideology.
your definition? It sounds like you just want to play word games with us, because I'm not
Oxford,
convinced
no,
that you know
that's
how
you.
to back up your point. So when we determine truth and when we determine what is the scientific consensus, there's data that goes into this, right? There are studies, countless studies that
The data
demonstrate
is that you're a female.
Okay.
How did?
Goodbye.
Yeah, I don't. I don't want to.
The data.
The data. I'm curious as to what data.
Yeah,
I'm curious about what data he has.
How absolutely pathetic that is. That we say, hey, so your position is against most major medical organizations. What information do you have that informs your opinion that makes you confident that you are more correct than those organizations? And his response is, misgender. Wow, real cool. You seem so smart and intelligent. I'm sure everyone here now really sees the validity behind your side of the argument. Anyway, man, it's disappointing because, we try to prioritize not pro-trans callers on this show, but I think it goes to show how utterly baseless that their position is. And that's the thing. Our position is working on the evidence. We have studies and data and medical organizations backing up the point we have. We are in alignment with the experts for good reason, because we've looked at the data and seen that it was good data. He just came along because he wanted to misgender. And that was literally his only goal here.
Yeah, and something for future callers. Like, yes, you are allowed to call in and make your claim, but there's kind of another step you have to go with that. You have to tell us why. Like, the why is an important part of this conversation, and if you just come in with the what but have not thought about why you believe that, I don't know if you're ready to engage in a conversation on that topic.
Yeah, I want to be so clear. I want to engage with people who don't agree with us on this stuff, but I am only interested in engaging with people who want to have an honest discussion about it. If you're just showing up here to smugly misgender us, I don't give a fuck about you. You're not actually interested in truth or helping kids or helping our society find unity over this. You don't care about any of that. You just wanted to antagonize. Go away. We don't need you here. If you think that, we are genuinely harming the trans movement somehow, and you have an honest way to back up your point, I want to hear it. I want to have these conversations. But if you're not going to honestly engage with us as a good faith interlocutor, I have no interest in hearing your voice. You're wasting our time, you're wasting our audience's time, and you're wasting the entirety of society's time, who is very distraught about this topic currently. Anyway, how are you feeling, Ben? You all right? We're good?
Yeah. It's funny that people think they can hurt me with such little things. Like, you misgendering me on air, like, that doesn't take away the fact that, like, I'm about to graduate from medical school and going to provide care to trans kids. So have fun with your little insults, but you can't do anything to me. Sorry, bud.
All right, let's pull in Jasmine. She's been in the audience for a while. Oh, hold up really quickly. Sorry, Jasmine. I just saw apparently Skylar, who was in the call, gave us a $500 super chat. Should we address this now? Okay, all right. Please, I'm begging you, Arden. I think you are the future of this country. I think you can change people's minds. I want you to listen. You helped me find myself. I know who I am because of you. You are the first transgender person who convinced me you are not the enemy. I fully support your cause and will do anything to convince you otherwise. If you want to have a conversation, come here in good faith, like I just said. Don't come in here with, you turned me away, therefore you are harming the trans. You didn't actually believe that. You just said something salacious so you could get on air. I'm not interested in that. I appreciate this donation. That's very generous and all, but trans lives are at stake in this country, okay? That is why I'm here. I don't give a fuck about whatever games you want to play. I don't give a fuck about you wanting to get on air by saying something ridiculous. I care about finding clarity and understanding for everybody on this topic so that society can move forward away from this stupid hurdle that we are trudging through and that we have been for the last 5+ years.
Yeah, can I say something real quick? Something else that is really funny about this is the fact that I was the one that he originally had beef with last week, and then doesn't even address me here, only goes crawling back to Arden. She's not the only one on this screen, and I'm the one that you picked the fight with. So if you really want to apologize to the person you had the fight with.
Yeah, maybe send another $500 apologizing to Ben, and then we'll consider letting you back on the line. Anyway, moving on. Let's take Jasmine. She's been in the call chat for a while. Calling Q. Jasmine, you are live on Transatlantic. What's going on? Talk to us.
Hi. Wanted to talk about healthcare and gender, specifically with Roe versus Wade, and whether you guys think maybe healthcare is maybe a little more too cisgendered, male, white kind of thing.
I'm sorry, could you elaborate a little? I'm not sure if I followed.
Well, do you think a mass has become sort of, especially in the U.S. with Roe versus Wade, do you think mass has become sort of more cis male oriented? And do you think maybe we should bring more gender into medicine, more sort of a
let me hop in.
Almost approach?
Let me jump in on this. So I don't know if it's more that way. I think it's always been that way. I think that's the general history of medicine, is that men have been, especially cis men, have been overrepresented in research. They've been deemed as the default when talking about treatment standards of care. So I actually think we are doing a better job in moving away from that. Feminism has had its place in medicine and changing the field. We are getting more women in medicine. We're getting more people of color in medicine. We're getting more trans people in medicine. I think we're diversifying more as a whole, and I think we are making changes. And I think this recent conflict, especially around Roe v. Wade and with trans rights, is more backlash against the progress that was already being made. So I don't think it's getting worse. I think it is getting better. I think people are just very angry that it is getting better and that cis men are no longer the default, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make some sense.
Yeah, I think, it's been the case for a lot of research in academia, in the past 100 years or so, that a lot of our data we found was not as good as we thought it was because men were considered the default. And this kind of to the point of what we were talking about in some of the last calls, what improved those standards and got us better data to, have better diagnostic criteria and better treatment plans was improving those research studies and having more representative samples so that we know, does this actually apply to everyone or does this only apply to cis white men? Absolutely more diversity in research and all of that stuff, I think is going to help. I think that healthcare, and as long as it is a science-based thing as opposed to what's happening in Florida right now, it will always gradually improve upon itself. That's what science does, and that's why science is so amazing. But yeah, I think diversity in the field can absolutely help propel that process forward a lot. And that will be hopefully beneficial to all of us.
So, bottom line, do you think we should bring more gender into medicine? And if so, do we bring it along female-male lines, or should we address it as a spectrum? How do we go about sort of balancing the scales from a more paternalistic cis white male thing to a more inclusive, perhaps a relational kind of medicine?
Yeah, so we're already doing this. We are absolutely already doing this. And in fact, the shifting to a more individualized view on gender is already taking place. In fact, it's taking place in the military of all places. One of my mentors, who is a pediatrician in the Army, they made a whole document about working with trans patients and gender non-conforming patients. And so I've got kind of those recommendations from them. We're making a lot of progress, and I think it seems like there's not a lot because a lot of it's kind of happening behind the closed doors of these medical organizations. Of course, when I'm talking about different guidelines, I don't often go to the general public and tell them the kind of lectures that we're listening to, kind of what's going on in my medical school. So maybe we do need to communicate more with the public on what our objectives are in that side of things. But I can tell you that it's absolutely happening. It just might not be visible from where you're at.
Yeah, I also just want to add that, I don't know that I think there's kind of a misunderstanding sometimes, and maybe it's not necessarily you doing this, Jasmine, but I see this a lot, that if we have more female doctors or more doctors who are POC, it'll all just get better. And well, I think that will help things for sure. I don't think that's inherently the problem. I think the problem is that medicine has, like Ben was saying at the beginning, it's had for a lot of its history, a white male as default approach. And I think just eliminating that and making medicine less biased already is going to go a super long way to fixing this problem. And I think a part of that is going to include a natural diversifying of healthcare providers within those industries. But it's not that inherently that we need more women as doctors that is what's going to fix it. We need better research, and hopefully there will be more doctors who are women if they want to be them. But I think that's just ever so slightly besides the point, if that makes sense.
Well, and here's a little point too. A lot of this comes from implicit bias, where people just don't even know that they're making these decisions the way that they are. And something specifically related to antibiotic stewardship, which is kind of a big soapbox that I'm on right now. I was listening to a talk by the CDC about the way we prescribe antibiotics to different groups of people unintentionally. Some specific doctor might be giving more antibiotics to a cis white man versus a woman of color, and that's not something intentional. But the CDC is looking at tracking more individual approaches and letting doctors know, hey, you're prescribing this more for this community than this community. Is this intentional? And oftentimes they didn't know. So if doctors individually can learn what their trends are, then we can kind of go that way in reducing that bias in medicine. So we are taking steps on that. So I hope that's helpful.
I think it is.
Awesome. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on, Jasmine, or was that kind of, is that it?
Well, just specifically Roe versus Wade and feminism with that, and your guys' view on all of the happenings in the U.S.
I mean, Roe versus Wade should be federal law. It's terrible that it was overturned. Women deserve the right to decide what happens with their, well, not just women, anyone who's capable of being pregnant deserves the right to decide what's going to happen to their reproductive care at every stage. Fetuses don't deserve special rights. That's how I feel about it.
Okay.
I agree.
Awesome. All right, Jasmine, we're going to let you go and move on to the next caller, but thank you so much for calling in. All right. This is a good time to maybe remind the audience that after we finish the call-in portion of the show, we will read out super chats live on air if they are $5 or more. I already see some are coming in. We're going to have another Team Arden, Team Ben battle. Remember, we need 25 votes for the punishment to happen. And the punishment this week we decided is that Ben and I both have a friend who really likes this disgusting, horrifying gasoline-flavored liquor. We thought it would be funny that whoever loses has to do a shot of it live on air, probably at the end of a show or maybe at the beginning of Super Chats next time we're on together. That way it's not like interfering with calls. But
when are we going to start seeing these punishments dole out?
The next time Katy are on together, which might not be for a couple weeks because she's busy, but I have my potato stack. So the punishments are coming. They're going to happen.
And as mentioned last time, because I need to go forward with this if we're going to end up making it happen. If I get over 100 votes for me via Super Chat, I will get frosted tips.
Oh my God.
I will do it, but it's got to be over 100 for me, not total, 100 for me.
I think we should make it that we're accumulating, but they can hear me, by the way. You don't have to worry that it's weird. I think we should make it that we're accumulating all of the punishments, and then December is going to be a marathon. Each Thursday will be, so someone's going to be drinking gasoline in a potato sack. Someone's going to be dressing up as a metalhead with frosted tips. Let's just accumulate all the punishments, and that'll be our Christmas gift to everyone.
Okay. Yeah, that
there you go. Good. So if you want me to dye my hair, you got to give me 100 votes, people. All
right. So we've got some more callers on the line. These look like they're going to be some more interesting calls. And actually, I'm really excited about number 4. This kind of relates to what we were talking about at the very top of the show. So let's bring in Jacob from New York. Pronouns are he, him. Jacob, you are live on Transatlantic. What are you calling about?
Hi. Sorry, I get nervous.
No worries.
I should actually probably just mention real quick, my power went out, so if my phone a little low, so if I go away mid-call, that's just a power thing. But
okay.
I wanted to follow up to a super chat I left last week regarding dismantling the desistance myth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go for it.
Basically, I'm just, I've had, you mentioned it briefly about how a lot of the numbers come from like this one regarding what had happened at that the clinic in, is it Norway? I always get those.
There's one in Canada and one in Norway, I think. Yeah. I forget what they're called, but yes, go on.
I'm just wondering if if you guys have like any general advice about regarding like those kinds of studies and like how to like go about dismantling them. Like if there's I know there's SANE, I know there's Cohen Kittens, I know there's, I think I'm gonna say this one wrong, Steensma, because these are just ones I've seen pop up from time to time, and a lot of them I've seen are regarding being like they'll take some kids who had like gender identity disorder, GID, when they were young, and then weren't diagnosed with gender dysphoria later. And like, I know how to explain like these are not the same thing. I know how to explain like these are neither of these inherently mean someone's trans. I'm having trouble getting through to a friend on this, and I don't know what other angle to tackle it with.
So the way I would phrase this, I feel like the way to phrase this from like a research-based academic perspective is that the way they operationally defined like a trans kid within these studies, I don't think they use that language specifically, but that's how people refer to it now. So I think it's fine to talk about it this way. If you don't know what operational definitions mean, that means how they're defining a term within the scope of a study. The operational definition that they use for trans people is so far off the mark for what being trans is in terms of modern diagnostic criteria that it basically renders the data of the study useless, because it's applying to a population that nowadays these kids would not be given a diagnosis of having gender dysphoria nowadays. They would be seen as just a boy who wanted to have a doll that day or wear a dress that day. So the sample population is not representative of what modern diagnostic criteria would determine a trans person is. That's how I would approach that from like a research perspective. But I don't know if, Ben, you have a different concept or maybe a different approach.
I mean, yeah, it's similar. And I tend to like to, and I'm sure you probably had this discussion if you've already been, trying to get through to people on this, but noting that gender dysphoria is not a diagnosis in itself, but it is a symptom of a greater presentation. So you can have gender dysphoria and be cis. Like, you can argue that a lot of people, especially, I was on a cosmetic dermatology last month, a lot of older women have gender dysphoria in that, like, they want to look more feminine. Like, they view certain things as masculine, and if they are seen as being masculine, they get dysphoric about it. Like, it's something that is realistic for any person, and is not by default something that makes you trans. So, like, looking at it from a medical perspective, like, merely having a symptom does not mean that you fit a certain diagnosis, and you often have multiple factors, and you don't have to necessarily have all of them, but having generally more than one of them would make a diagnosis more likely than another one. So I guess depending on how you want to communicate this issue, if the people you're trying to have a conversation with are more into research, definitely you could try taking Arden's approach with addressing the study itself and say, here are the problems with the study. Otherwise, if they're not likely to read the study anyway, maybe approaching it either from a medical side or approaching it just from a more interpersonal side might be better for you. And I don't know the people that you're engaging with, so it's kind of difficult to say this is the best way to approach a discussion. But there are many different methods out there that you could use.
Yeah, it's mostly this one friend of mine who, for whatever reason, just will not relent on this point. And like, I've explained to him before, like I am cis, but at the same time, at different points in my life, I could have been diagnosed with GID or GD for completely different reasons. Neither of those are indications I am trans, and he'll still be like, look up at these studies, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, I don't know where else to go with this at this point. It's like getting to the heart of like that kind of thing about why neither of these matter in determining whether or not this is a thing is just and it frustrates me because I don't know where else to go with this.
You could, it's difficult with people like this. I mean, and this is kind of what we were talking about, with the first caller who was talking about us like not listening, or was it? Well, I may not be recounting that accurately, but because I don't want to lose my point, my brain is like scrambled eggs. You could take the approach of asking, like, most major medical organizations currently support transition as the like best recommended approach for trans people to improve their well-being. And for the reasons we've already discussed, they don't consider the study you keep citing as relevant data. Why is it that you think you are more qualified, or that your persistence on this study is more valid than the conclusions that are formed by all of the relevant experts? What information or knowledge do you have aside from the study, because we've already talked about it, that makes you think you are more qualified to make this decision than all of those medical organizations? I mean, I have a feeling they're probably going to still just burrow their feet down and stick to the same position, because that's usually what happens with those kind of people. But yeah. That doesn't surprise me.
I brought that up too, and he'll usually it might be a good point to bring up, but usually what he'll respond with is pointing to, I think it was Sweden, recent or semi-recently, might have been a few years back now, but he'll usually point out that they basically saying that they limited or restricted in some way the availability for minors to get, I think, even as much as puberty blockers, and saying that, we'll have to see like what information comes out of that next few years. I'm like, we don't though, because we already know what happens when you don't do that. And part of me wants to wonder, like, if you've never heard anything about that. I'm wondering if it's like, was that a decision made by like on a suggestion of a Swedish medical board, or was that like something made by a bunch of sit-head dudes sitting in an office somewhere? You know what I mean?
Yeah, or go ahead, Ben.
Oh, Arden, do you know more about that? Because I don't know if I'm thinking of the same study that he's talking about. But
yeah, so I've heard this claim, and I've heard that it's not true from other people, but to be honest, the people that I heard that from didn't back up their point either. So I probably ought to look into that more. My understanding is that it's not the case that they actually like banned access to care. That might not be an accurate representation of it. I think they maybe added more restrictions or something like that. But I also don't want to totally talk out of my ass on this, because I am not educated on this. And I encourage our audience and you as well, Jacob, to go looking into this. I think it's probably something that I should also do after this show, because you can't really talk on these topics and not know what's going on. So I have heard this claim before too, that Sweden is banning trans care for minors, and my understanding is that that's not accurate, but I don't know exactly what has been done. So probably something worth looking into. But yeah, that's all I know with that. Sorry, I couldn't be of more help at bashing your friend's bigotry.
No, I mean, I wish because like his problem is that like he doesn't have any, like he's no problem with like trans people in general. He's just of the clutch protect the children. He's fallen into that say trap, I guess. And just I'm trying to like be like, no, you're actually hurting people, and or you're advocating for hurting people, really. And I've genuinely tried to get him to call into the show, but he just refuses.
I mean, that might be an admission in itself that he doesn't actually, isn't able to back up his own position. But I mean, I think, it's convincing to a lot of people. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, was quoted this week as saying we should jail and imprison all doctors who affirm trans people because, they're protecting the children or whatever. It's a very convincing line, and it's been used by bigots to oppress minority people for, I think, for all of time. Everyone cares about protecting children. So the easiest way to convince people that a group is bad is to suggest that somehow they are harming children by existing. That's such a easy way to associate someone with something negative. But yeah, I appreciate the frustration of dealing with that. I empathize with people who are like, hey, I don't want to see kids get hurt. So if kids are getting hurt by this, then I disavow it or whatever. And it's like, well, it's just not what's actually happening.
It's frustrating because I get where he's coming from. I also just don't know why he I kind of just have to assume at this point if he heard this first and now he just doesn't know how to work his way out of it with new information, and I don't know what to do.
Well, maybe you could take even approach like step back a little bit, and because if he's not going to give in when you're obviously talking about trans issues, like even taking a step back and just going with a standard like straight epistemology approach to just see how he would evaluate between two studies, like have one study that might show his point of view and show a study showing a different point of view, and then ask him, how would you determine which one of these is more correct? And then get him to evaluate his thought process on the issue and not necessarily the issue itself. And then see if something like that might get him to have some dissonance over that. Because if he gets to a point that says, oh, my thoughts are not consistent, then maybe he'll be, and especially if he thinks he's doing it himself, if he thinks he's coming to the conclusion on his own, he's probably more likely to change his mind. So that might be a worthwhile approach if you get there.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to move on. We've got 3 other callers to get to, Jacob, but good luck with talking to your friend.
Thank you.
I hope this was helpful, and we'll call back if you have any success. We'd love to hear, what worked or didn't work. So have a good one.
Yeah, and we'll do. Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Cruising right along. We've got 3 callers left on the line, and we would like to get to all of them. I think they all actually sound very interesting. So just take them right in order. We're going to take Eugene in Georgia next. Pronouns are he, him. Eugene,
Yep.
Eugene, what's going on?
Nothing much. I'm on live now right now.
You are live on Transatlantic. What's your topic?
Oh, wow. So my topic was basically to get a little bit of a deeper understanding of trans, and mostly because I have some friends, some gay friends who kind of rub me as almost anti-trans, and I've never really communicated that much with anybody like that. I would mostly be scared to, because I wouldn't want to say something that seems offensive, So
Sure.
I know it sounds silly. So the thing that was hiccuping me up is that my group of friends were making it sound more of a sexual desire versus an identity. Am I wrong to think it's more of an identity than a sexual desire?
No, you are spot on. Your transness has absolutely nothing to do with your sexuality. Those are completely distinct things.
It's because, like, to dress the way you feel good about yourself, basically, or to your outside represents who you are in the inside, correct?
Yep, you're trying to communicate your internally held identity to the outside world.
So it's like, I'm not saying that you guys are equal to this, but like someone I'm not saying that you guys are, I don't mean it as illness, but someone who looks in the mirror and they see their body a different way, that's different than trans though, correct?
Yeah, it's common to conflate body dysmorphia with gender dysphoria. Body dysmorphia sounds like what you're referring to, which is a misalignment in how you perceive your body, usually specifically regarding body shape and body image, like usually regarding weight and beauty standards. Not just about weight, it can be like the shape of your nose or your jaw or something like that as well. But that is distinct from I have dysphoria regarding my body being perceived in a gendered way. Those are separate, distinct things with different treatment methodologies that are well established and have predictive power.
So a bodybuilder that looks in the mirror and he just can never be impressed with his body would be dysphoria, correct?
Or just
that'd be dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Dysmorphia, sorry.
No worries.
And then just for a statement wise, like how this can even hurt people that aren't trans, and I'm going to use parts of my life as an example, is that my daughter went through puberty at a very young age. And I remember reading some stuff that, there was something out there called puberty blockers that was designed for this scenario. And when I approached my local hillbilly doctor, basically I was put into this category that I want my daughter to transition and the pills are bad and they're irreversible. And I kind of went with what the doctor said and with what the idiots around me kind of were saying to me, and I didn't further check it because I thought the doctor kind of made it, clear to me. But now that she's, 13 years old, I feel horrible, and I feel like I was misdirected kind of by the fear of trans.
Yeah.
So it can hurt everyone, not just, and I don't mean that like we should be concerned about my daughter. What I mean is my thinking was poisoned by somebody who's a medical community. You would think that went through the medical community would have more of an open mind and deal with science and facts, and that wasn't the case. So it's scary.
Yeah. I absolutely, I want to say also, Eugene, I think we should be concerned about your daughter. Something Katy and I have been talking about on this show since the beginning was that, all these bathroom laws, right? They're going to affect way more cis women than they will trans women.
Oh my God.
There's so many cis women out there who don't conform to beauty standards. And just last week, there was a viral video of a woman who was in the bathroom and some woman was following her around. Yes, asking exactly. That a lot of this transphobic stuff affects everyone, and it's really harmful. And I'm sorry that happened to you and your daughter. That's really difficult, and that is an exact reason why we need to be taking an evidence-based approach on this stuff.
Exactly. And when it comes to the evidence-based, so I have people that like to, insert their thoughts on things, but plastic surgery for a child can happen. But my understanding is that no child's going to be able to walk into a place and get a transgender surgery, tomorrow or next week. I mean, there's going to be an evaluation of therapy, maybe puberty blockers if they're close to puberty. Probably wouldn't happen until after puberty unless there was something that was like a born condition, two sexes. I mean, is what I'm saying correct?
So the way that so they're not doing genital surgeries on children. That's not something that happens. And what happens, like what you're talking about with intersex surgeries, those are actually historically very commonplace, non-consensual genital surgeries of babies who are intersex, and that's still considered okay by a lot of transphobes. But that's something that I would argue I have a problem with because it's non-consensual. They did not ask for that.
They're breathing, they're alive, and they can't participate in the decision of their body. Their parents are making that decision, and then hope to God their parents got it right, and as they develop into a person. But that's okay. Yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. It just blows my mind. I'm being facetious. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. But yeah, just to clarify, nobody is advocating for transgender genital surgeries on children. At least like later teens is debatable whether somebody is giving that to a 17-year-old. I haven't really seen that being done, but that's kind of a different discussion as they approach the age of consent and what that looks like in different countries. But no one's really advocating for this under the age of consent. So
yeah,
and
I mean,
transgender. Sorry.
No, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
Transgender surgery that have been performed, like the one in Tennessee that dumbass wrote a story about. Like I looked into that and it looked like the whole time they've ever done it, they only did 26 surgeries and like 3 in 1 year, and everybody that was there like seek treatment for years and then finally were approved. There was some kids that were like, they weren't kids, they were young adults. They were between like 16 and 18, but like is that accurate information that like this is not something that's happening everywhere, like puppy mills?
Yeah. No, there are some exceedingly rare cases where after 16, usually it has to be with the consent of parents unless parents aren't involved and like aren't even a part of the kid's life, in which case there are some exceptions to that where a kid can access something like perhaps top surgery, right? But even in those instances, that's not going to be, because the child has dysphoria and really wants it most of the time. It's going to be a much deeper evaluation of it is going to be more harmful for this child's quality of life to wait for this surgery for 2 years for when they become an adult. And so in this case, we're going to make an exception to the standard and allow them to access this procedure earlier because that's going to be what's best for this child. These are almost always individual case-by-case basis situations decided upon between an informed medical provider and parents and the patient. You're not seeing, conservatives love to pretend that kids are walking into clinics, getting slapped with a needle full of hormone blockers, and then getting, all their bodies chopped up like it's the fucking Demon Barber of Fleet Street out here. But that's not what's going on in almost any case whatsoever.
Democrats snorting ambiotic fluid, you mean? I got you.
Yes.
Real quick, just so you can, I don't know if this has any point, but with my daughter, my guilt has never gone away. I watched my little girl go from a little tiny girl who wasn't ready to even figure out if she was a woman or young woman yet. And it hurts me even today because my little girl disappeared 2 periods later, and then she started hating her body. And it's just, I know I'm making this about me and I shouldn't right now, but
no,
we gotta stop hating things that we fear. And I guess this is a really big deal for me. I'm atheist. I've always been in the South. I'm open-minded and I'm surrounded by people who aren't. So I'm isolated. And the only thing I have is my immediate family. So when I failed her, I think I'll take this the rest of my life as I failed my daughter, So I just want people to realize, even if you don't have anybody that's trans, that this could be you.
Yeah, Eugene, I just want to let you know that I don't think you failed your daughter at all. I think you trusted that a medical provider was giving you the best information to do the best you could for your daughter. I think you did everything in your power to do the right thing for your kid, and it was a bigoted and uninformed medical provider who harmed your daughter, who was the reason this happened. And even then, I want to be clear that I don't think, while I understand that precocious puberty can be difficult for a child to go through, and there can be associated comorbid issues with that, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Human bodies develop at different rates, at different stages. And while it might be difficult for her right now, and it's clearly painful for you to see that pain that she's going through, it's not, there's nothing wrong with your daughter. She just is not like her peers, and that's okay. Because I guarantee you every single one of her peers is deviating from the rest of their peers in some kind of way. So
yeah, of course, yes.
I deeply empathize with the pain you're going through, but I just want you to know that you did not fail your daughter or harm your daughter. A culture of bigotry and misinformation is what unfortunately misguided your doctor's decision. And I'm sorry that happened, and that definitely should not be happening.
I appreciate it. I'm sorry for taking up so much time. You guys have a great day.
Thank you so much, Eugene. You have a wonderful day as well. And if you're still listening, Eugene, you definitely did not take up so much of our time. I think that was actually a really compelling call, and was something we try to hammer home a lot here, that while trans people are the target of the culture war a lot of the time, we are not the only victims of the culture war. This affects everybody who does not live up to the, cis white Christian expectations for how bodies should behave and look. We are all we're all at risk of being harmed by this sort of stuff. So thank you for sharing your story, and my heart goes out to him. All right, we've got 2 more callers I would like to get to because these all sound really interesting. So we're going to bring in Samuel from California. Pronouns are he, him. Samuel, you're live on Transatlantic. What's going on? Hello. Hi. What's going on?
Hey. Well, first off, the music for the waiting room is very creepy.
Oh no.
Okay. Hey, so I hope you guys are having a great day. I'm just calling because I have a few questions and I would like to learn more from you guys and how that whole community works. Because long story short, I just grew up in a very deeply religious place and way of life, and I did not have the opportunity to learn. So now that I am now a skeptic or some sort of like agnostic atheist, I am way more open-minded. And my first question would be, is so I've known a person in my family, like some type of cousin from my mom's side. She was a person who was always into trans movements and stuff, and they were trying to become a man, I guess you can say, or some sort of male, and they had surgery and they took hormones, and after a few years, that person started getting extremely sad and said that she was regretting the choice that she made. And I'm trying to understand, why is it that there are a few people, well, I am not saying that that's all of them, but there are a few people that I've seen who seem to have a deep regret, and I would like to learn, why is it that happens?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, I certainly have, I don't know if you know anything about me, Samuel. I actually have some experience with detransition. I'm not going to give you my whole life story, but I transitioned for a couple years, detransitioned completely for 5 years, then transitioned again, and that's where I'm at now. I've been that way for 5 years. When it comes to detransition and reasons, we have a few sources talking about the potential whys. Seems that only about 2% on average, and that's coming from like multiple studies. There are some numbers that are like more like 6%, and there are some that are like 0.3, but average is probably like 2%, claim they or have detransitioned at all. And of that number, one of the largest trans studies ever cited that 60% claimed the reason they detransitioned actually was about difficulties finding acceptance within their communities, their families, at work, experiencing bigotry and transphobia. I don't know your cousin, so I can't speak to what their reasoning was, right? I think for a lot of people, and I can tell you when I detransitioned, I did for a period of time blame transition, but what I came to realize was I blamed transition because everyone treated me like shit when I was a trans person. I got bullied every day of school. I got death threats all the fucking time. I didn't know when I walked into school that day whether I was going to make it home. And luckily, physical violence never happened to me, but it does happen to a lot of trans people. And because of the insane social rejection that I got from my family, my religious community at the time, my school community, all my peers, I felt like transition was what caused all that to happen to me. If I hadn't been trans, I would have been accepted and loved in my community like all my peers. But the reality was that it wasn't my transness that was the problem. It was the bigotry and hate towards trans people that my community had. I can't control the fact that I'm trans. It is just a fact about me. It's not my transness's fault that all of that happened. It's those people's fault. Well, I can't speak to your cousin. I think that, I mean, we see this in the data. This is a more common experience of detransition. The insane pushback from their community and things like that. And I hope that that's not what happened to your cousin. I hope that they just realized through therapy and introspection that it wasn't right for them, and I hope that they're able to access the care that lets them feel the most at home in their body today. But yeah, there's a lot of potential reasons for regret, I suppose, but that we have only limited data on what those reasons could be, because I think that's probably different for a lot of people. Ben, did you have anything you wanted to add in there? Sorry for talking a lot.
I mean, I don't have as much to add because I've never gone through a detransition. I do say that, like, there are definitely times when I've messaged Arden, I messaged Katy, and I've been like, hey, I don't want to be trans today. And it's not, again, it's not that I don't want to be me. Like, I'm happy being me. But it's on those days when you're getting all that pushback from people. And recently, especially for me, it's common that people will say you shouldn't be a doctor because you're trans. And it's demoralizing, something that I've put 20 years of work into, that I'm not good enough because I'm trans. And that happens on a daily basis to me and to Arden and Katy. Like, we get these comments frequently. So it's, and my thoughts for myself, even if I were to detransition today or tomorrow, like, what would that change about me as a person? Like, I know that I'm happy the way that I am. I'd probably still dress the same. I'd probably still act the same. Like, if I slapped the label of woman on me, but still was this way, like, I'm still not their idea of a cis woman. I still don't meet their criteria for what they want me to be. So I'd still get the same bigotry, just with a different label on it. And again, yeah, I don't know what the case is for your family member, but I know that for me, like, the thought has come across my mind. Like, it's not something that I haven't thought about, but it is that social pressure of why I've even ever thought about it. So I don't have a whole lot to say, but I guess that's a little bit.
Yeah, was that like helpful, or like how does that leave you feeling after all that?
Yeah, that really does help explain, because it is true that most people that I've heard of, they feel like they can't fit in this world. So that really did explain that part. And the part about my cousin, what I heard her say more of, because she trusts me the most, she started saying that before, for many years, she felt like a man, and she just wanted to be a man, so she was transitioning to be a man. And then when she finally became a man, she basically said, oh, well, now I feel bad because I no longer feel like a man, and I now feel like a woman. So I want to be a woman now. And I guess that would be the only part that I'd say it's still kind of confusing, but I am starting to understand it a bit now.
Yeah. You know, I think like something that's worth pointing out too is that while the situations like your cousin are not the norm for the trans community at all, I honestly, personally, fully support a movement where people are able to access the care necessary to make them feel good whenever. Like, if in 2 years I decide I'm a man again and I want to get all the things to make me feel like a man, I feel like I deserve that. You deserve to feel good in your body, whatever it takes to make you a functioning, happy, productive member of society that's able to, like, while you're on this, you know, pale blue dot or whatever, to have meaningful connections with your community and your society and yourself. It's got to be really painful to go through that. And I know a lot of trans people talk about changing the term detransition, right? And moving more towards this notion of a non-linear transition, because a lot of people, like your cousin, it sounds like they went on to realize they actually felt like a woman. A lot of people will go, I think I'm a man, transition to a man, then go, oh wait, I'm not a man, but I'm still not a woman. So I'm just going to say, fuck this whole thing. I'm just me. Call me whatever. I don't really care. I just want to be me. I don't want to like participate in finding the right box. And, like, I think that's great. Like, whatever you need to do to feel comfortable in your skin and to get through life. I feel like as long as you aren't hurting other people or yourself in the process, is fine. Like, who cares if you have to change your mind 15 times? Like, what is it to literally anybody else? Like, feel good in your skin. That's what matters to me.
Right. And definitely with that, just the fact that there are more than those two boxes. Like, and I think part of the issue for some people is that you're trying to find one of these two boxes to fit in, and you might be non-binary, you might be gender fluid, you might be some other variety of not one of those two boxes. And so it, like, especially if people aren't aware of the spectrum and just the ability to be you, I think, I don't know, that might be a factor as well. But again, I don't know your cousin, but just some things to think about.
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely, I mean, I think about that because that really does give a lot of help and insight into how the world works, and I really do appreciate that. There is something about my mind. No, I am not trans. And just forgive me if I use like terms that may seem I'm like primitive to you. I'm sorry about that. It's just I don't know too much, but I am a straight male right now, and I have always been straight. And because I have been raised super religious, it pains me to say this, but it's kind of like I have been raised to be trained to just feel disgusted of all kinds of things that were considered like sin. You know, I mean, like being gay or being like trans, and I have gone a long ways from that. Like I feel like I have improved a lot, but there's something in my mind that I hate, and I don't know how to get past it, and it's just always there in the back of my mind. I hate the feeling that I have, that I still feel a slight unnerving sense or like a disgust towards trans people. And I love people and I care about them, but I do not want to have that feeling, and I don't know what to do about that.
I have so much empathy for this situation, Samuel, and I want to say that I think if you asked 95% of trans people who grew up in America, probably would tell you they have the exact same thing every day. Trans people now, I can tell you, it's gotten a lot better for me because as a trans person, you're forced to confront that emotion a lot, but it still gets me where sometimes trans people will be celebrating their body in a way that I feel like I can't due to dysphoria and internalized transphobia. And then I realize, how wrong is it of me to have an adverse reaction? Or not wrong, but it's not, I shouldn't project my adverse reaction to trans people celebrating their bodies when they're doing absolutely nothing other than loving themselves, just because I have that religious baggage that you also have. I think it's absolutely normal in American society. And I think that being able to recognize that you have that baggage is like the most crucial step to being able to address it. I think you got to just give yourself a little bit of a break and empathy with like, I'm having this, you know, initial like gut reaction because these thoughts and these feelings about these people were planted in me as a kid, but it doesn't necessarily reflect on me, and it doesn't necessarily reflect on those people. You can have those emotions and not like act on them or let them inform how you behave. You know what I mean? I think denying the fact that you feel those emotions is going to make it harder for you to confront them. I think recognizing like, ooh, I had that feeling, this is where that comes from, doing it every time it comes up, that's how you help with that. But with that said, Samuel, we do got to move on to take this last caller, but thank you so much for calling, and we'd love to hear from you again sometime soon.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate everything you guys have said, and I will surely come back to talk to you guys someday. Thank you so much.
Thanks, bye. All right, last caller. I gotta be snide to one person in the chat. All right, Rob C said during that call in the chat, 0 to 6%, so the average is 2. Guess the average can identify as 2% if it wants. Look, I know I'm bad at mathematics, but I'm pretty good at behavioral statistics, and one of the most rudimentary concepts, Rob, is that there's a difference between a range and an average. Just because a study found a 6% number doesn't mean that the average can't be 2, you dumb motherfucker. Anyway,
right?
that was
Like
said.
there are things called outliers.
Yeah, that's totally a side point. I mean, I know I'm bad at math, but yikes, that is like 3rd grade level math. So let's bring in for our last caller of the day, Natalie in Portland. Pronouns are she, her. Natalie, you are live on Transatlantic. What's going on?
Oh, I'm good. How are you guys both doing?
Doing wonderful. What's your topic today?
I am a mod for a trans political Twitch streamer, and
Okay.
she recently had a debate about whether or not it's appropriate to call what's happening with trans people in the United States a trans genocide or not, or whether or not it's helpful as well. And I was curious what you guys both thought.
How do you feel, Ben? I've talked a lot. You should go first.
Oh wow, I'm getting thrown to
Yeah, let's go.
this topic. Well, I think there are times when it is appropriate to use the term, and there are times when it's not appropriate to use the term, and I think it really depends on what specific issue we're talking about. Because I mean, within the general conversation about trans rights, like if I were to say that, you know, that person who called in earlier to misgender me, if I were to call that, like, well, it's unfortunate and an inappropriate thing to happen, I can't call that specific issue a trans genocide. Like, that would be kind of dishonest of a conversation. But in terms of denying people healthcare and wanting to arrest people for being trans, or like if certain things come up that are aggressive and violent and calling people to violence against trans people, then I could see that being an appropriate use for the term. Like, or people, like when people are taking steps to prevent trans people from existing. Like if you want an entire community of people to just not exist, and are, even if you're not very explicit about what means you want them to not exist, that might be a more appropriate use for the term. So it's just like yes and no, in that I think there are times where it's appropriate to say that, and there are other times where it might be used too liberally. So it's context dependent for me.
Yeah, I think I largely agree. I mean, it depends on the definition you're using, right? Like, I think you could probably make a pretty good case that historically genocide has referred to the slaughtering of a large group of people to eliminate them. I know that, like, Canada, I think it was adopted a definition recently, especially with regard to what's happening to Indigenous people in Canada, that genocide refers to just strategies that eliminate a group of people from like either their lives or from like public society. You can make a case that that definition is so radically changing that it maybe requires a different word. That's a different conversation. I think what's happening in Florida could probably be pretty well squared up as a trans genocide. Like, their only goal here is to completely eliminate trans people from the state of Florida. You either are denied your transness and denied access to all the medical guidelines for healthcare that you deserve, or you are forced to flee. Those are the only two options. You cannot exist as a trans person in Florida. And I think there's a pretty compelling case there to be made for calling that a genocide. I also think there is the weight of who that term has been, what groups of people have had genocides committed against them, and whether or not they are comfortable with the sort of culture creep of this definition. I don't know. I think you can make a pretty good case for either side. I find it compelling, the notion of what's happening in Florida, if that continues to happen in the rest of the U.S., that could probably be adequately described that way. But I don't really feel completely committed to one side or another with that. I think I'm open to whatever the most productive way to discuss what is happening is. But I don't know. How do you feel about this, Natalie?
I think it kind of depends on who you're talking to the issue about, like who you're aiming your rhetoric at or whatever, your advocacy towards. Like if you're talking to a far right-wing conservative they might just pass it off. It's like, no, we're not. All we care about is protecting children. They might not, be receptive to that. But if you're targeting a more like moderate centrist or someone who's more lefty, they might look at that and be like, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. It does sound kind of genocidal what they're doing. So I think it kind of depends on who you're targeting it at. But I definitely think it's happening because you can see what's happening in Florida and Texas with taking kids away from their parents. And I think it's Alabama and Arkansas as well are trying to ban healthcare. And if you look at the 10 stages of genocide, you can actually see what they're doing. There's like dehumanization, polarization. There's a bunch of different steps or stages, and you can see that is happening. So I think it's an appropriate term. It just depends on whether or not that word's going to be appropriate for who you're aiming your.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I have like reservations only in that, like, for example, a lot of the things that are happening to trans people now are maybe slightly less severely happened to gay and bisexual people in the last like 3 decades. But that was just a sort of natural flowing of progress, right? Like they had growing representation in the media. Finally, it was to a sufficient point where they were able to get a movement around pushing back against it before finally social pressure just caved into, okay, this is just where we're going now. It could be argued that that's the stage we're in with trans people, and so it's a little bit ahead of the curve to start calling it that. But for me, the stage that we're at is more severe than what was happening to LGBT people, to the gay and bisexual people in the past few decades. I mean, well, at the same time, though, with the AIDS crisis, it's pretty similar to being denied access to health care and kind of being thrown under the bus. So I don't know. It's hard to really quantify like suffering in that way. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. The person she ended up debating was a UK lefty. He's in Ireland, I think. But he was saying that you can't call it that because he's like, oh, I think it's okay to call it the early stages of a genocide. He's like, I wouldn't be opposed to using that terminology. I'm not going to, impugn someone for using that terminology. But to say it's a full-blown genocide now, he thinks it's too far, which I guess I can agree. But on that compromise, calling it the early stages or the ramping up to a genocide, I think using that language in the right way to the right people will help them get us on board, and they'll look into what's happening with trans people in the United States. If you downplay it and say that's not what's happening, they might not even look into it. Oh yeah, it's fine. Trans people. I mean, what rights do they not have? I've heard I don't know how many people in a Twitch chat say, "What rights do trans people not have?" And I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to make people see what's happening right in front of their eyes.
Yeah, I share the frustration of people aren't taking what's happening seriously, and that is going to be what leads to things getting significantly worse and more clearly genocidal. It is difficult to know exactly where the line is on that. I feel as though it's appropriate to use it in the right instances. I think we're all kind of on the same page here with regard to that. But yeah, I can appreciate though why somebody would have pushed back to that. I think you could make a very strong case as to why that's maybe not appropriate to use that term. But I am a little bit more in favor of it, at least as regard to like with the state of things, like you said, in Texas and Florida. With that, Natalie, I'm so sorry to cut your call short because I know you waited so long, but our producer has to be out of here relatively soon, and we still have super chats to get to. So I'm going to have to say
is Jimmy still sick?
He is not quite as sick. I think he's mostly better, but thank you for this call.
All right, well, I'll let you guys go. It was nice talking to you. It was good to hear what you had to say about it.
Yes, thank you so much, Natalie. Bye.
All right, thank you.
Oh, shoot, I cut her short. if Natalie's watching, I do want to, it would be nice to maybe have a little bit more of an in-depth conversation on that, because I think it is a really interesting topic. We just unfortunately do not have the time to really hash out, get into the weeds on it. So with that, it's time to move on to the super chats, and I think we gotta bang them out pretty quickly. So we're ready to dive in. Ben, you want to go first?
Do it, yeah.
All right, Team Arden, wake up. Now's the time.
Or not. Come on, Team Ben. You want my hair dyed. I know you do. 6 from Moldred T. Malcontent. What did you think of John Oliver's Last Week Tonight episode on trans people? I have not watched it yet.
Outstanding.
I have no comment.
One of the best specials on the topic that I've ever seen a cis man do. He addressed a lot of the major points that are ignored by cis people who are trans advocates. So outstanding. Highly recommend. Thanks, Mildred. 5 pounds from Sean Isherwood. Speaking of my my relationship with math, the Klein 4 group is the smallest group with more subgroups than elements. Okay.
We need Katie here for this one.
Yeah, if I sat and thought about this, I feel like this isn't quite math. This is sounds like more like set theory stuff, maybe. But I'm still slightly out of my mental grasp.
All right, what's the next one? Come on, Team Ben. We need some Team Bens on the board.
No, we don't. You don't need anything.
Yeah, we do. €5 from Andrew Botella. I am AMAB and consider myself non-binary mask. I'm very careful not to call myself trans, but I do strongly relate to trans men more than cis men. Cool. And that's fair, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I saw some people talking about this with the AFAB thing too, that if somebody is non-binary, assigned female at birth, and they are femme presenting, they're by definition trans, they could be AFAB trans femme. But that's not what those words mean. Trans femme means a person assigned male at birth who transitions, not necessarily to womanhood, but to some sort of feminine expressing identity. So it's literally
something that they weren't assigned.
Terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's complicated, but I'm not saying that non-binary people can't be an AFAB non-binary person can't be femme. Of course they can. And it wouldn't negate their transness. That is not at all what's related to the term AFAB trans femme. But I appreciate that people were wary of that in their responses. So thank you. Next.
Nobody on the board yet.
I know. Come on, wake up, Team Arden. Let's go. $20 from Alex Wood. Just a great thank you for what you do, Arden Bed. Thank you, Alex Wood. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alex. I like your puppy.
Yeah, it's very cute. What a guy.
I want that puppy. I'm going to take that puppy. Oh, this is the one that we read already.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Skylar going hog wild in the chat. Skylar, you can call in again and talk, but you need to revise your approach, because I'm not going to have my time wasted on this show. I just won't allow it. So revise your approach, consider calling in again. And
I forgot. I wasn't paying attention to which one I sent next. Yeah, Skylar, I know sent messages too. And one of the things I was going to say to him is just, we hear all the time, even on the atheist shows, from people who are like, this is the right way to do this show, from people who are so sure, and yet our email inboxes say differently. Now, usually on the atheist shows, I would say, if it's so much better, go do it and be better than us. I probably am not going to give a cis man a recommendation to go do a better trans call-in show, but you could do like me. You could go find the better hosts and platform them yourselves.
Absolutely. I don't want, I like doing this show because I care about changing minds for the better, but I don't want to do this show. I don't want to have to do this show. If you have a better way that is actually better, do it so we can all stop doing this. Anyway,
€5 from Jotun's daughter. What is with the whininess of the callers today? The first two were really something. Yeah, I don't know. People are just angry today.
I mean, I realized Skylar was trying to do some sort of subversive thing there, I think, but caller number 2 was definitely straight up just pure whiny energy, like, could not back up his point. So he's like, well, you're a doo-doo head. Like, that might as well have been what he said, and it was that was the value that the call provided. €5 from Yasmin Meadowflower. Keep the hashtag Team Mayo flag high. Let's go.
You're both Team Mayo.
Board.
Yeah, I'm on Team Mayo too, though.
Literally.
Well, if you want to give me 2 votes, then by all means.
No, that's never the thing.
I'm pretty sure we all know what Team Mayo means. Let's not.
Ben has been Team Mayo on this very channel. I don't know how to. That would be so unfair. Stop trying to oppress trans people.
Yeah. I guess she can have it because I think people know that I'm Team Ranch. So I guess that.
Yeah, you're Team Ranch for sure.
All right, there's your pity vote. I'll put it on the board.
Yeah, Arden gets a pity vote because she needs it.
€5 pity vote that Yasmin Meadowflower very generously donated to us. Okay, you know it is. Disrespect our donators.
No, we're not disrespecting them. We're disrespecting you. There's a difference.
That's valid.
$10 from the Logical Larynx. I like your name. I came here for trains, but found myself pleasantly surprised by these 2 wonderful hosts. Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much. I also like trains.
I like trains.
I like trains. $10 from Peehee Marine. Sorry if that is like a Marine term that I just totally butchered. Cis male Marine veteran here, wanted to show my support and continue to be an ally. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Definitely, we love the allies here that show up and are willing to like listen and hear and understand. It really means a lot.
Yeah, thank you for the support. And I'm not a Marine, but I'll give you a Semper Fi anyway. Because I'm nice.
This one you?
Oh, so. $10 from All Things Considered. How would you respond to a person calling you an intolerant bigot for not tolerating and accepting bigoted ideology? This person doesn't know what bigot means in that case. And I mean, they can call me whatever they want, but doesn't mean that it's an accurate statement.
Tolerance for bigotry is what leads to more bigotry. We don't. Here's the thing. People are always like, "Oh, let's just have a free speech. Let's really hash these ideas out in the public square. The marketplace of ideas." But the medical community is not confused about trans issues. The medical community is not in flux in open debate. This is non-experts who have nothing to do with this topic that want to have this debate. Like, we don't need to be having the trans debate if these people would accept science and experts. We wouldn't need to be doing this. It's the paradox of intolerance. You don't need to be tolerant of bigots to be tolerant of minority people. That harms minority people and silences their voices to platform those bigoted ideologies. Leads to less diversity of thought overall. Thank you, though. $5 from Melissa Nguyen. Hopefully I got it right. I tried to listen to it before the show again. I frosted my tips when I was a pizza delivery driver. WFB wouldn't have liked it with all that sticky frosting in their ATMs. Wait.
Oh, talk about nail tips.
Oh, okay. Hashtag Team Felines. Wait, who does that go
That's
to?
You. That's you, because okay. I don't have cats.
I do have 2 cats. That's fair.
Nobody likes my hamster. I feel offended on behalf of my hamster that nobody votes for Team Pebbles. 666 from Ray Van Alphen. Sorry, Ben. Both of you use great arguments, but those dimples in her cheeks are way too cute. Hashtag Team Arden. There's no love for Ben today.
My dimples manipulate. There's like a black vortex of like rational thought right here. It just drains out people's ability to see clearly because they just see how cute I am, and they
in all fairness, no, I'm very happy that people are giving Arden the the cuteness points because trans men do not want your fucking cuteness points. So don't give them to Arden.
Fair. I'll take them. Hey, I'll take the vote. Whatever.
You can have the cuteness points.
Thanks, Ray. Oh yes, we got the chat, the poll that everyone can vote in to get one vote towards the overall thing. So you can vote right now. Get it in.
Come on, chat.
Wow. Oh my God, I'm getting slaughtered right now. Come on, Team Arden, wake up. $10 from Charlie Spur. I feel like a lot of people like to poison the well by calling it gender ideology, despite not being able to actually to define an actual ideology or pin one down. Or even then, sometimes they do define an ideology, but they define it as something that is not what trans advocates are advocating for. They'll be like, trans ideology, convincing children, sexualizing children to convince them that men can be women. Or something absurd like that. They try to frame it in the most dishonest way that it's actually divorced from what trans people are actually advocating for. But yeah, I absolutely agree. This is the entire right-wing approach, is to straw man and misrepresent what we're doing to try to convince people that standing in opposition to us is the morally right thing to do.
We got 5 Australian from Danny T. Great show, much love. Hope Skylar can get the point across next time. # Team Ben Frosted Tips. Here we go. We got one.
Oh, yes,
one person wants me to dye my hair.
Frosted tips.
I think we should point out that clearly Ben wants frosted tips, so give him his 100 votes.
Yeah, come on.
I guess I want it. Maybe
help him affirm this.
I just want I want them so badly, but I can't admit it to myself how much I want them. That's really what this is.
Clearly.
You want us to force you to do something you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the only reason why I said it.
Another $5 from Melissa Nguyen. The Swedish ban is, oh yes, this is relating to the Sweden thing that the caller earlier was talking about. The Swedish ban is like if the US, Canada was its own country, UC Medical, e.g. UCLA or UCI, cut trans care. It's just one university, not the entire country. Yes, right. I was going to say, I was pretty sure I had heard that it wasn't the case that they actually banned it in the country, even though people were saying that, but I didn't know what was actually done. So that's really useful. Thank you so much for letting us know that, Alyssa.
Oh, here we go. Wow, I don't know how to feel about this one. Okay, 10 euros from King Nick 1994. Team Raunch, Team Ben. I don't know about # Team Male Privilege because I have lots of discussion points on that because trans men often don't have the male privilege that people think that we do.
Sure.
That's a whole separate discussion point, maybe. Love this show. It's turned me from being ignorant on the topic to a staunch ally. Keep up the great work. Thank you, King Nick, and thank you for the Team Raunch and the Team Bens.
Clearly, we're harming the trans community and not representing it, as people are literally telling us how we're changing them away, pulling them away from bigotry with information. Another €5 from Jotun's daughter. Is that what you said it was pronounced as?
Yeah.
Calls went from whiny to super lovely in an instant. You two handled each call amazingly. # Team Poe.
That's me. We had Teletubbies last week. So.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yes.
Arden, who's your Teletubby? I gotta know.
I think was it Ipsy that Malcolm had last time? I think that's when I like.
Dipsy. Dipsy is the green one.
Dipsy, right? It's just a little straight up thing, right? It's not a shape. It's just a little wiggly like fucking dildo on top of its head, and I'm like, oh my god, it's amazing. I love it. Yeah, but I thought the calls today were great. Aside from the first two being rough, I think it's entertaining for people. But that one call about the dude whose daughter was harmed by trans misinformation, his cis daughter was harmed by that. That is like the epitome of what the show is trying to do. So I love today's calls. I thought they were great.
Wait, who's Team Poe? Which one's this?
That's me. Little red Teletubby.
We gotta hit a lot of votes to make it, and Jimmy has to go by 4:15. So you better start slamming them out. $5 from
more like I'd like to, but yeah.
Is this you or me? I forget.
I think this is me. $5 from James Call. Arden SDB, what are your thoughts on a peanut butter and sandwich spread sandwich? It was my dad's favorite. Your answers will influence my vote.
Wait, I have to ask, is a peanut butter and sandwich spread sandwich, like a sandwich within a sandwich? Are there 2 levels of sandwich happening here?
If so, then I would vote yes. But also, I am a human garbage can, and food is usually yes for me. So I'm going to say yes.
I mean, I'm a fan of peanut butter. I probably could enjoy peanut butter just on bread, but I really don't like just uncooked bread. Just raw bread is kind of a little weird most of the time. So I'm a little iffy. I need more details on this sandwich.
I feel like I get the vote then because I said yes to the sandwich.
Wow, okay. Fine. Yeah, that's probably fair.
My human garbage can status coming in handy for once.
Also, yeah, TV is that Doctor, student Doctor Ben. I see Johnny in the chat saying that. £5 for Mr. Prime.
Yeah.
I have regret. The price I had to pay was too high. I lost everything: job, safety, home, friends, family. Turf Island sucks. That's the thing, and that's what I was saying at the beginning of the show. You know, like the real irreversible damage is not getting rushed to the medical system, because that happens to almost nobody. The real irreversible damage is the trauma that you take with you in your life when your family and your community abandon you. Like, we are evolutionarily programmed to depend on our communities. Getting that ripped from you, this is why cults are so effective, because getting that ripped from you is traumatic. That's the real irreversible damage in my mind. And a lot of people will frame that as regret about transition, but I don't think it's regret that you are trans or regret that you transitioned. It's regret that, like, you know, of all the people who could be trans in this society, it has to be you. Like, that's difficult to have to cope with.
Definitely. All right, $5 from Exempligratia Girl. This is about the dog whistlers. Just don't judge anyone by another person's actions ever. Then there's no viable label-based infiltration attack and no need to defend labels. # Team Arden. I'm not sure if I'm following.
Yeah, I'm not really either.
I'm guessing sarcasm, like, because obviously you should always judge people by their deeds, only by their deeds.
Yeah.
I got to think this is
I'm guessing.
I can appreciate that there might be someone who, in good faith, who is not a transphobe, might use a dog whistle label and not know what the history behind it, but that doesn't make it okay, or that you shouldn't judge. I think a trans person could reasonably be like, oh shit, this person's using that dog whistle. I'm going to evaluate them based on the how other people have used that label historically. I don't know. But thanks
now,
for
was
the vote.
the Team Arden also sarcastic, and they meant just kidding?
Jimmy, give me the vote.
There's gonna be a fight back here about the votes.
I'm gonna team attack you in Demio if they let me. I gotta add that to the update.
Friendly fire. You can with some AOEs.
There you go. I'm gonna ruin your day. Is this one me now? $5 from Charlie Spur. You need a sample size in order to get an average. You need to know the size of the data set. A range doesn't tell you anything. Correct. The only reason I brought up the range was because when I say, oh, on average, across the studies that I've read, and I think across meta-analyses that would agree with me, 2% seems to be the rate of detransition. People always go, well, this one study says 6%. And it does. Not that that literally changes anything about the point at all. But usually I will say that to say that, you know, to be charitable, you could even put it at the highest one, 6%, and it doesn't change the point. But the average is actually like 2%. That's the only reason I bring that up ever.
£5 from Missy Prime. # Team Arden for her great call outs of BS tonight.
Thank you, Missy Prime. Right on.
You didn't even get a dance from Arden. I'm not going to dance. So I guess you should keep voting for Arden if you want the dance.
That's right. Ben doesn't love you guys. He's not going to dance for your votes. So you should always vote for me.
But I have snappy gloves.
$5 from Quagma TV. Team SDB. How would you deal with a situation where your parent refuses to stop dead naming you or misgendering me and sis?
How would I deal with the situation? Like, I mean, this might be privilege from my standpoint, but I would leave. But I'm also an adult. I'm not dependent on my family. I just like, bye. We're not talking later.
Yeah, it's difficult for trans people who are dependent, but yeah, absolutely. I think cutting them out is an absolutely acceptable response to that. You're not going to treat me like a dignified human being, like you treat every other human being you interact with. Cool, then I don't need to be around you. It's painful when it's your family, but it doesn't fucking matter. You're not going to treat me like garbage. 1999 from Greg Markowski. Couldn't make match show last night. You two great hosts get my money instead. Haha. Well, to be fair, since Matt and I live together, it's kind of like all going into the same place, but thanks anyway. Thanks for the show. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, dang it. Someone's sitting on the fence again. Okay, we got $5 from Quagma TV. Team Arden, playing it safe by betting on both teams. What's your favorite animals?
Favorite animal overall?
I know that's so hard because there's so many good animals.
Are we talking about mammals, reptiles, like inverts? I have 15 snakes in this house. I also have like 15 plus rats. I like rats, but I also have 2 cats that I love dearly, and I like dogs, and like monitor lizards and iguanas and geckos, like so many things.
Yeah, I can't make this decision either. Too many good animals.
I love animals.
The correct answer is koalas. Moving on.
Koalas are dumb, though.
And?
See, Jimmy, you're giving me shit, but Ben just dissed you just like that, and I took your side right away. Come on.
Oh, I'll remember that.
Koalas are...
There's a super chat later where I get to decide who gets the point, just so you know.
Fair. Well, koalas are good at wrestling, so I like koalas for wrestling, but they're also dumb as shit. So, I mean, you can't have everything, right?
Every time I tell people that I love koalas, they always go, but they get chlamydia. And I'm like, I'm not going to fuck them.
Yeah. $5 from Quagma TV. Oh, sorry. Do you want to?
Oh, no, I was just going to say with the koalas, like you got the videos of the koalas that will like try to climb the paintings of a tree in their exhibit because they're so stupid. But, you know, again, doesn't matter.
They still exist. They're great at being koalas.
This is true.
Okay. They do the best they can. $5 from Quagma TV. Team Arden and Team SDB. I feel like that just cancels out. Thoughts on the bias with the response to expectations in the NB and trans community that NB is just woman light and we are all AFAB? I think you mean to say that we're all NB, because I have heard that. I don't think I've heard anyone say we're all AFAB. Yeah, I think when people say stuff like they fab to like delegitimize and to insult AFAB non-binary people who happen to present femininely, it's disrespectful and disregards the fact that they are genuinely having a trans experience. I'm sure that even being a feminine presenting person who identifies as a non-binary person, they probably face a very specific and unique type of discrimination on the basis of being a non-binary person. There's some edgy trans people who want to suck the dick of the oppressors because it makes them feel like they're in the included category, and they'll throw their fellow trans siblings under the bus for that. And that's shitty, and they shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, I have seen this. You had said that NB people are just trans women who haven't gone all the way, or trans men who don't want to go all the way. They just want to be somewhere in the middle. I've seen that. I've seen it quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad takes on NB people. From both cis people and the trans community. I got blocked by a trans person on Twitter like a month ago because they were targeting a friend of mine, calling them they fab, and I was like, I don't remember what I said. I said something snarky and they blocked me because they were like, oh, I'm getting bullied. And I'm like, you're literally targeting non-binary people and using like borderline slurs against them. Can we be honest about what's happening here? Anyway, thank you, Quagma. I don't remember who this is because I talk too much.
I'll read it. $6.99 Canadian from Rebus Wind. I thought it would be a hard decision to choose teams. Then Ben literally said Team Ranch, and he's not even drunk today. So I'm Team Arden today. Okay, should I be drunk? If I'm drunk, do I get votes? Is that how this works now?
Clearly,
I'm losing votes because I'm sober.
Isn't this more like Team Salad versus Team Sandwich? Like mayonnaise is gonna win because more people eat sandwiches than eat salads.
Hey, I don't put. I do not exclusively put ranch on salads. Ranch is a universal condiment. Like
Gross.
It goes on everything.
You probably dip pizza in it.
Oh yeah, why wouldn't you? What else would you dip your pizza in?
Whoa.
Pizza and ranch is good.
Dip some pizza pockets in ranch or whatever those little square Totino's pizza things are. I forget what they're called.
Yeah. I can take points away. Yeah.
Well, go for it. The audience will revolt against you.
Oh no, I'm so scared of them. Okay. They're gonna live chat me. Maybe they'll send $500.
I'm being harassed by
Canadian from Nilly Wilson. I like your name. It's funny. Thank you for both helping me to formulate my arguments against my transphobic family. Oh, awesome. I've changed many of their minds so far. # Team Ranch. That's so good. That is literally every time somebody's approached me at a convention or whatever, this is what they tell me they use this stuff for. And that is what I want this show to be. Give people good arguments and good information, good data to back up their point. That way, when they have these conversations, they can be informed. That's awesome. Also, I think that's a team for Ben, right? Team Ranch?
Yeah, I gave it.
Yeah, Team Ranch is me. I know, against your better judgment, Jimmy, you had to. £5 from Sean Sherwood. A group is an abstraction of symmetry. The Klein-4 group encodes the symmetries of a rectangle. A subgroup is a certain subset that is a group. Okay, I see where you're going with this.
I don't, but that's okay. Thanks so much, Sean. I
Do you, Ben? Please
I
explain.
need more time to really... Well, no, like, I think I know where it's going, like, but I'd still need more time to really iron out the details in my head.
I've opened up my schedule. Go ahead. I'm just kidding.
$5 from Johnny fill in the blank. Get the fuck out of my house, man. No, just kidding. Johnny's here right now. Team Ben / hamster. Read it in Weep Heart. What's up? Oh yes. Oh my god, that's so exciting. We've had our snake, my favorite morph, Lavender, ball python. We got him a couple weeks ago. He hasn't been eating, but he just ate. So yay, he ate. Go. Not starving themselves.
The number of calls I get about when these things are eating or fucking, it's a lot.
Our snakes do eat and fuck a lot. That is true. Wait, me? $5 from Melissa Ewan. No, not fingernails. Tips, as in tipping for pizza delivery. By the way, WFB. Oh, Wells Fargo Bank. Yes. That makes sense. USDA is the ISO 33166 code for the United States, California. Got it. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Y'all should follow. I don't know your handle, Alyssa, on Twitter, but I see that she's going to town on transphobes with like good data all the time on Twitter. Should definitely keep an eye on Alyssa. She's doing good things.
$9.99 from T-Bug. Being on the spectrum, having mental health differences doesn't make you a jerk. # Team Arden. # Team Vote for Your Lives. I would agree.
Agreed. Yes. Thank you for the vote.
My being a jerk.
Well, I agree, except
totally
for the Team
separate.
Arden. I don't agree with that part.
Next. €5 from King Nick 1994. The male privilege thing was a joke. # Team Pebbles is compensation. Again, love the show. Host and crew. Yeah, I think we knew it was a joke.
I knew it was a joke, but I definitely still accept your Team Pebbles. And Pebbles also accepts it, but she's sleeping.
Oh.
What is Pebbles? A dog?
A hamster.
Okay, I just want you to put a painting of some trees in with your hamster, and you tell me that it's any better than the koalas.
Well, but I didn't say that a hamster is my favorite animal. I just own one.
I think this one's you, right?
I thought I read the last. Oh no, it is me. $5 from James Call. Sandwich spread is a mayo-based spread with relish mixed in. Oh, so you eat this with peanut butter. Hashtag Team Ben. Quagma TV also says to add bananas on toasted bread. So again, I am a human trash can, and I'll try pretty much anything that's edible. So it's my vote anyway.
No.
So.
James,
Everything's edible with enough
banning you
resolve.
from the channel right now from ever commenting on the line ever again for suggesting putting mayo and relish mixture on a peanut butter sandwich. What the fuck is wrong with you?
I dare you to make the same comment, but when Katie's on and see her reaction to this, because
where is the peanut butter? And first of all, I'm overriding this because James gives us a lot of money. But second, where is the peanut butter element? I don't see that anywhere in
That was
this.
the last comment. James said it's a sandwich spread peanut butter sandwich, and we were like, oh, is it a sandwich within a sandwich? And he's clarifying now that part was about a mayo and relish mixed spread with a peanut butter sandwich.
I think you're over connecting it. I think this is independent. James, is there peanut butter in this sandwich spread?
See, Jimmy's desperately trying to justify this because he knows it's the most vile, disgusting thing he's ever heard.
Oh, no, it already has relish. I'm disgusted. I'm already disgusted by relish.
Which means he knows that I'm right.
Relish is pickles.
Okay, I'm throwing something else in the ring. I'm throwing something else in the ring now. If I win and we get enough votes, I will eat this type of sandwich on stream.
Oh my god,
I will do it.
God, what a punishment that would be. Oh.
I can't find the old one. It's probably a page back. All right, so here's this
I will do it.
$5 from Quagma TV. Team Jimmy to be allotted to whoever he feels like. Invent a sandwich and I'll eat it.
Hey, Arden, what's your favorite animal?
I don't know. I like a lot of animals. I don't have a favorite.
Arden, I'm picking the points. What's your favorite animal, Arden?
A snack.
If you say
like a snack.
Like
how did you not understand you were just supposed to say koala and I was going to give you the point? I mean, I'm going to give it to you.
We're not going to play your stupid game, Jimmy. We're not going to play it.
I bet you will. Arden, what's your favorite animal?
Koala.
See?
I'll lie for the vote. It's fine.
Now we know Arden's level of integrity on this game now. $4.99 from Claire. Hashtag Team Ben because I didn't watch the last show live, but Poe was always my favorite Teletubby. She's so cute. Yes.
To be fair, I feel like they're all cute. I like them all. Teletubbies are adorable.
They're
My
all
dad
on
wouldn't let me
drugs.
watch it because apparently they were gay. You can't watch that show. Those Teletubbies are gay. I'm like, what? $10 from the Logical Larynx. Where can those of us who are either trying to learn, support, or seek help find good resources? Any good orgs or sites? Also, you may not have a choice with the koalas. They're sneaky. So actually,
koalas do not try to fuck humans.
Sure. I put out the offer multiple times to share research and like resources and stuff with people who messaged me on Twitter. I just shared something with somebody like 2 days ago, I think. A great place to start is if you type in a comprehensive defense of trans people Reddit, you'll get a Reddit thread by a user called Musicotic, and it has a massive compilation of common talking points and what supports or debunks them, a bunch of data supporting different approaches to transition, including like social care for or social transition for minors and things like that. You probably need a little bit of literacy in research methodology and like understanding how to determine like, okay, this study has some good data, but I can't really generalize like this part of it or whatever. It requires a little bit of literacy in research in academia, but it is actually a great resource to start from. And there are lots of new studies that aren't even on there. So if you message me on Twitter, I will do my best to find the time to help you, but I will warn you, My brain is scrambled eggs. I remember I have a text message for about 3 seconds before I forget I have a text message to reply to. So be warned.
We need at least 3 more votes. So Ben won by 51%, the community one. So we'll throw that one on there. We need at least 3 more votes because in the remaining 3 super chats, there are only 2 votes. Nope, only 1 vote. So how many do we need? We need 4 more votes. Otherwise, no punishments will be doled out from this episode.
All right, 4 more votes. Get them in. We're neck and neck too. Whoa! I don't know what
100 Swedish from Puck Tholander. The Swedish ban. The assessment is that treatment with hormones should continue to be given within the framework of research from the National Board of Health and Welfare.
So it's kind of a little bit. I'm not sure how to parse that with what I thought I understood from Melissa's last comment, but I
have to read it. I have to read the paper.
Yeah, either way, this is not an outright ban. So whoever's saying it's an outright ban, that is clearly that has been clearly determined to be factually false, whether it's because of this reason or Alyssa's reason. So thanks, Puck. Appreciate it. And very generous donation. $9.99 from Stacy 1904. Pizza and ranch is the best. # Team Ben.
Hey. We're doing well, Team Ben. Let's go. Just a few more.
Last one, unless y'all vote now. No punishments on the board. Why are we missing it by so close? This happened last time. Missed it by like 2 points.
To vote.
And
maybe
I don't want...
punishment. Maybe the punishment, instead of being the shot, should be this nasty-ass sandwich of peanut butter and mayo and relish. Okay?
Or both. It could be both.
Sure, maybe it'll be the shot for Ben. He doesn't like that, and the sandwich for me, because that sounds more gross.
Go big or go home. We do them both.
Okay, yeah.
$5 from James Call. 1 side peanut butter, 1 side sandwich spread. It was my dad's favorite sandwich. He grew up in the Depression.
I was wrong. I humbly apologize for how wrong I was.
I know you wanted to believe in James, but I was right. Despicable. Thanks, James.
Well, I guess we can just be mad at James's dad, right? Not him.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not mad. I don't know why y'all are mad.
A curse on your family.
I'm mad. This is sacrilege. Okay. $5 Canadian from Aaron. # Team Frosted Tips. No, we're falling behind. Team Arden, hurry. I don't want to have to eat this fucking sandwich. Oh my God.
£5 from Missy Prime. Ben, don't diss the drop bears. They're adorable. I'm just being realistic, you know. Not no animal is perfect. I'm just gonna say that, but koalas are dumb, and it's not saying that they're bad animals. It's just a fact that they're dumb. But also humans are dumb, and we're animals. So.
All right, we need 3 votes to get the punishment enacted. So come on, we've only got a couple of super chats left. I think only 2, and only one of them has a vote. So let's get to it. $5 from Quagma TV. Team Ben, I'm gonna have to eat a banana sandwich bread and toast sandwich now, aren't I? Joke's on you. I'm hungry and high. I'll eat anything. I'm happy for you.
Come on, let's do this.
Thanks, Quagman TV.
$9.99 from Shannon MC, whatever this is. Do y'all also feel like more people would vote for trans and women's rights if the economy was better? It seems like people don't care about others if gas or avocado toast cost more than they used to. I think it's a non sequitur, and people like to whine about things and they'll blame whatever is near them to blame. So,
yeah, I mean, you see this from Marjorie Taylor Greene has been tweeting for the past 24 hours. Biden, but the Biden administration cares more about gender ideology than it does about getting gas and oil to the American people or whatever. It's a common way to frame if the economy is bad, it's because of this other thing that this politician is caring about or whatever. But I feel like it is unfortunately convincing to a lot of people because people are experiencing the hardships of financial turmoil, like not being able to afford housing, or or when they're making kids pay for their lunch, like their kids aren't getting their school lunches because they can't pay for it, or some ridiculous shit like that. Like I empathize with why they're so frustrated, but it's just not related to trans people.
For the people in the chat defending ducks, I have terrible news for you about ducks.
Yeah, ducks are mean.
And rapey.
Yeah. Not the best animals.
Terrible animals.
Oh, I think
we already read this one.
I tried to get you another point, Ben.
Ben, was that a vote? Did we count that vote for Ben? Wasn't that a team?
We already counted it. I'll be honest and say that we already did it.
That's so
$6.99 Canadian from Rebus Wind. Moral story from the line: lie for your vote. # team favorite animal drop bear. That's not a vote for either of us.
What are you talking about? That's Arden. Arden already lied for it.
Yeah,
if we're supporting, and I just told the truth about the vote for me already being counted, and she's over here lying about her favorite animal to appease Jimmy. So I mean, take that as you will, audience.
Learn to lie. We're men. We're allowed to.
Oh, is that what happens?
Have you
I
not
transition
seen
and
the
now I'm
last
allowed to lie.
10,000 years?
I mean, I have, but I was gonna be better than that because
Ben's a good person.
And
less points.
I'm a good person for less points. So be it. So be it.
$5 from Wanted Chaos 2033 just got here. Don't know what we were voting for, but Team Arden. You're voting to either make Ben take a shot of disgusting liquor or to make me eat a vile, disgusting sounding sandwich. But thank you for the vote. I appreciate it.
Which means I think the tiebreaker.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap these up.
$5 from Nathan Winter. # Team Ben because it wouldn't be funny to make him eat that sandwich. Way to put the dishonest callers in their place.
All right.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right. I see how it
There's
is.
another.
No, the tie's back.
W. I don't really have much to say in the super chat other than I enjoy the show and you guys are the best. Keep up the good work. # Team Arden.
So, we are so close, Team Ben. We are so close.
Is that how this works? We both have to do
You
the best
both
thing?
lose. It's going to be gross for everyone.
That's
all right.
fine.
I'll have to get some. I'll have to get some gasoline.
All right. With that said, everybody, we got to wrap up the show. We are well over our intended landing time, but thank you so much for supporting the show. It was actually a really good episode. I had so much fun today. Thank you guys, the viewers. You guys are the ones who make the show possible. And thanks so much to the mods and to Jimmy and to me and Ben. Thanks to me for showing up here. Just kidding. Anyway, we have so much fun. We will see you all next week. Bye.